So what about if your child is not young? What if your child's actually in late high school, is quite senior? Say your child is in grade 8 or 9 or 10, 11, 12. Well, is this course still relevant? Absolutely. Because what I want you to do is I want you to basically, when you've got a choice looking at different videos, kindergarten or early primary or elementary, whatever you call it in your country, or say year 4 to year 7, I want you to watch those year 4 to year 7 ones, okay, grade 4 to grade 7 videos, because those skills are the ones that your child probably needs. Now, as well as that, I'm doing this special section for anyone who does have a child in grades 8 through to 12, because aside from needing those skills that are listed out in those other videos, there are some things that are specifically for your child. So let's have a look at what they are. Pretty much you've got to look at what the goals are. If you've got a young child, then your goal is to help your child develop skills. But if you've got an older child, say your child's in year 11 at school, grade 11, then you've got more than one goal. One goal is to help your child be able to read and write well so that they can do well in life. But then the other goal is to get them through school, is to get through these next assignments. And so you've got to look at what those goals are. So when you're looking through the rest of the course, definitely watch the videos that are about the skills you would teach someone in grade 4 to 7. Absolutely. But as well as that, also be keeping these things in mind. When your child has an assignment and they're in between grade 8 to 12, your child's going to look at that assignment. They're going to try and hide from it generally. They're going to run away from it, not run to it. And so part of your job as a parent at that point is to help your child plan out when they're going to do their work. What are the due dates for different assignments and tests, and how can your child study effectively for them? If you don't help your child plan that well, then they will probably not plan it themselves, and then they won't do the assignments. And then you're in that awkward spot that you don't want to be in, where you've got a child who hasn't done their work and now has no time to catch up either. Now, when your child does have assignments, the first thing that you need to do is work out how much do you want to be involved with that. And I would recommend that if your child has dyslexia or visual stress, then it's really important that you are involved with their assignments and that you are helping them. And it's not unfair. It's just you're there as a support, and that's valid. No one can legitimately question that. When someone has a broken leg, you put their leg in a cast. And when someone, has a back injury, they can't use their legs, then they use a wheelchair. No one questions that. Well, in the same way, if your child's got an issue with some form of dyslexia, then it's important that they have the extra assistance and support. And as a parent, then you are welcome to give that. You are allowed to give that. Now, something to keep in mind is that your involvement with your child and their assignments needs to be at the early stage of the game. So it's in the researching of that assignment. It's in helping your child work out what they're going to write and know what they're going to write, and then you can back off and let your child write it. So things like if your child has an assignment, you want to be involved in helping your child research from the internet whatever information they need to write their assignment. Don't just abandon your child to go and research for themselves, because chances are they're not going to know really what's on topic and what's off topic, and they're not going to be able to distinguish between work that's at their level and an article that was written by some university professor who wasn't writing for someone your child's age. So definitely help your child with getting hold of the research they need to do their work. The next step is to help your child plan their assignment. And yeah, I actually want you to help your child plan their assignment. Now, there's two main ways you can do that. Now, firstly, make sure your child has their sheet that tells them exactly what they need to do for that assignment, because I've seen it so many times. Parents diligently help their child plan for the assignment, and then the kid gets a failing grade, and the parent's up in arms and cranky about it. And the bottom line is the parent and the child both answered the wrong question, but the question they answered was not what was required of them, and then obviously they got a poor mark, and you don't want to be in that spot. So make sure you understand exactly what's required of your child for this assignment. Two main ways of doing it. One is to just sort of plan out each paragraph, work out, okay, if my child has, say, an 800-word assignment, my child's going to need 4 paragraphs. And the first paragraph will be arguing this, the second paragraph arguing this, third paragraph, fourth paragraph, and then just sort of come up with some dot points of the sort of things that your child can write in that paragraph. So that way, when your child goes to actually do the writing of the assignment, they already know what each paragraph is about and they've got something to get themselves started with. Fantastic way of doing it. Now, another way of doing it, and this isn't the way that I would normally recommend, but some are very, very visual. And if that's your kid, then this is great. In my country, it's often called mind mapping, where you just sort of put ideas in circles, and you link the ideas to each other. Now, mind mapping can be a complete waste of time if it's done poorly. So here's what you need to know. If your child is going to write, say, 4 paragraphs in his assignment, you need 4 different sheets so you can have 4 different mind maps. So say if in the first paragraph your child is arguing, I don't know, that cricket is a better sport to play than tennis, all right? And in the first paragraph, their reason for arguing that is that cricket is more of a team sport. So they're going to be writing all about team sports. Well, when you mind map, make one of those sheets of paper dedicated solely to talking about why it's better to have a team sport like cricket than tennis that's less of a team sport. So don't let your child just write random ideas for their whole assignment onto one great big mind map. That will be a waste of time, okay? It's actually got to be segmented down to what's going to go in each paragraph. Once your child knows what they're going to write, it's just a matter of getting out of their way and letting them write it. You don't want to be micromanaging your child. You don't want to be absolutely, put your pencil down now, write this now. No, you want to get out of their way, because if they're in year 8 to 12, they've really got to get some independence. And if you've helped them come up with the structure, or if not you, maybe a tutor, or maybe even another relative, whatever you choose to do. But once your child has the structure, then they can go and actually do their assignment on their own. Now, it's important that your child understands that the quality of assignment you're looking for is not that high, okay? The draft, the first time they're writing their assignment, it should just be a matter of get it done as quickly as you can, get the words on the page. Just get the information out of your head on the paper. It will do the job like it is. And then once that is done, then your child can go back and refine it and add some stuff to it. But really, for a child who's dealing with dyslexia or visual stress, or someone who just struggles with school, it's just a matter of get it done first and then adjust it later on. Something else that's important for us to do as parents is to think of tools that can help our kids. There's a lot of tools out there. My favourite tool by a mile for kids who have dyslexia or any sort of writing issue, my favorite tool is called Dragon software, and you can look that up on the net. Dragon software is basically you talk and you're speaking into a headset, a mouthpiece, and the computer then types what you just said. And I use it all the time. I've used it for a couple of years. It is just exceptional. It's fantastic. It takes a while to train it, maybe 4 or 5 hours for it to get used to your voice, so it's quite effective. And it's fairly expensive. I mean, it might cost, say, in my country, somewhere between $100 or $120. In your country, if we're probably talking US dollars, maybe $100 US. It sounds expensive, but really, if it's going to save you and your child hundreds of hours of frustration, then I would highly, highly recommend it. Now, the next thing you need to be aware of is that when they finish writing, it's not up to them to proofread their own work perfectly. Yes, it is their responsibility to go over it and find the things that obviously jump out as being completely incorrect. But there's no point in giving a child a dictionary and saying, go and look up that word. I mean, honestly, how can you demotivate a child more than that? It's just not going to work, especially in this day and age where kids are instant. They don't use dictionaries anymore. Okay, if they were going to use something, they might use spell check on the computer. But do help your child proofread their work. Do help them come up with where those errors are and what they can do to fix them. Do it graciously, do it kindly, because they already feel stupid. You don't want to make them feel even more stupid. But it is appropriate for you to help them proofread their work. And if your English is just not up to scratch, then if your English is just not, in a good enough way that you can help them proofread their work, then you can get someone else to do that with them. But it is appropriate for you to help them proofread their work. Because imagine how demoralizing it is for your child to plan out their work carefully and then to do their work. And then if it's not proofread, then your child hands in this work that really the teacher looks at like it's just rubbish. And the child gets back a bad mark. Well, that's not exactly going to inspire them next time. So do feel free to help your child proofread their work. People say, oh, but one day when you're at university, you won't have that. Well, you know what? Let's cross that bridge when we get there. Right now, your child's not there. Your child does need you to help proofread their work. If not you, then someone else. Another thing to keep in mind for kids between year 8 and year 12 is that when your child sometimes has the opportunity to do an assessment by doing a speech, I don't know if it's like that in all of your countries, but in my country and in most Western countries, kids can do a speech. They can give what's called an oral presentation. They're just speaking out their assignment rather than handing in a written assignment. When they have something like that, that's your child's chance to shine. And you want to take that opportunity really well. Because if your child was to get an A in their speech, it doesn't matter if they got a low C in their other stuff, they'll still have a good solid pass at the end of the semester. Or if your child's getting low Bs and then they suddenly get an A in their speech, well, suddenly they're getting high Bs just because of how things work with the weighting of assignments and how things are marked. So anytime your child has a speech, you want to make sure that your child has every chance to get a great mark in that. Ensure, I can't say this enough, this is just so important. If your child has a speech, no matter what your child says or no matter how much they protest, do not allow your child to take a piece of paper with sentences written on it as their prompt for the speech. All right, that speech needs to be palm cards. Each palm card needs to be small. It needs to be on coloured paper if your child benefits from coloured paper. It needs to have just a couple of words to jog your child's memory of what they're going to talk about. Because that is a way to do well despite having dyslexia. Turning up to class to read nervously from a piece of paper is not going to get your child a good mark. It's going to be embarrassing for them and hard for them. There are times when having dyslexia is not fun and not fair, and doing a speech is one of those times. So you just don't want your child in that spot. But if you'll use this as an opportunity to cause your child to use great palm cards, great notes, really well rehearsed, then your child can get a fantastic mark for that speech and they can feel great about that experience, and it's going to build their confidence. Now, there's lots more stuff in this course that's about helping your child with reading or with writing, but I just thought, some of you guys and ladies are dealing with children who are much older, and I don't want you to feel like you were sort of overlooked. That's why I've done this particular segment specifically for you. And now the next step is to keep doing the rest of the course. Keep looking at what's in the course for grades 4 to 7, and you'll find that most of that is also applicable to your child.